to Leading Entrepreneurs of the World, our 2022 conference. We are now joined by Manjula Lee. She is the CEO of Worldwide Generation. Welcome, Manjula. She is here to speak to us today. The title of her presentation is The Fastest Way to Achieve Sustainability, Peak Performance in Your Organization, a really important topic. So Manjula, we look forward to spending some time with you here this morning. Thanks for joining us from Singapore. So you are into your evening already, so we appreciate your time today.
Oh, pleasure. Great to be here. And hi, everyone who's watching. I'm going to share a little bit about my journey as the CEO and founder of Worldwide Generation and a platform we've been developing for the last 5 years called G17 Eco. And then I want to give you 10 steps of how you can fast track your organization to purpose, protection, and prosperity. And it's these 10 steps we've actually used to model into the platform. And so, yes, and I want to leave some time for a discussion and questions, and please feel free to make this as interactive as possible. So just very quickly before I share my screen, as I mentioned, I've been on a 5-year journey to basically find a global resolution to how we're going to concretely deliver 17 sustainable development goals by 2030. I was actually at the inception of something called the 17 Sustainable Development Goals in 2015 and have been on this 5-year journey to try and figure out what is the missing piece of the puzzle? How are we going to concretely deliver these goals as government, as business, as civil society, and as citizens? Because as you know, the world is in a lot of trouble, now made worse due to the pandemic, now made worse due to climate change and potentially on the brink of irreversible decline. So what was the missing piece? We realized there was 3 things. No one could execute. Because no one could execute, no one could get access to trusted, comparable, timely data. And because of that, no one could actually measure impact, where to invest, where to divest, where to manage risk, and what was actually working for scale up. So we realized some kind of technology platform had to come into play. My team and I have been developing this platform, as I mentioned, 5 years, 300 contributors to this platform globally over the last 5 years. And now we are rolling this platform out at scale. And here I'm in Singapore and getting excited to actually onboard the nation of Singapore onto this platform. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to hopefully inspire you. Where do you start? How do you build a purpose-driven organization and contribute to the global purpose? There's that beautiful DNA image. Really, what I want to talk to you about is how to embed sustainability, proper, true sustainability deep into the heart of not just your organization, but you as yourselves, as your own personal transformation journey. So step number 1, define your purpose. Purpose actually means the reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. When I speak to organizations, when I speak to individuals, even the organizations themselves says, you know what, our founders founded us and we don't really remember why we were founded. And many businesses, well, we hope many businesses, many nations are founded to make the world a better place. That's why we are in business, to make ourselves better, to make society better, to make the planet better. And so step number 1 is to number 1, ask yourself, why am I here? What is the global purpose? And then as your organization, and I'm speaking to the sort of CEO, the leaders, what is your business in business? What is the purpose? Step number 2 is to then, once you've defined that purpose of why you're here, well, then you need to start to define your vision, your mission, your values, your strategy, and align that to the global purpose. Here is Worldwide Generation's vision, mission, purpose, values. Our vision is to see all generations believe in sustainable development and deliver these sustainable development goals by 2030. That's our what we want to see. Our why is the purpose. Well, we exist to fast track organizations, nations, and citizens to purpose, protection, and prosperity. How? The mission. How are you going to do that? Well, our mission was to build this G17 Eco platform to unlock trusted, comparable, and timely data so that impactful investments, resources, and solutions can flow at scale across the world. And then our values. So these are values that I've had since the inception of Worldwide Generation. Our values is transparency, then trust, then partnership, and holistic outcomes. And actually, we've underpinned our values with a culture of honor, which is actually a culture of honor and love for each other, for our fellow humans, and for the planet. So that's step number 2. And when I say align it to the global purpose, what do I mean? Well, these are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. No hunger, no poverty, no injustice, housing for all, clean water and sanitation for all, gender equality. This really is the global purpose. This is why we're on the planet. You know, there is no need for 3 billion people that living on less than $2.50 a day. There is no need that only 0.1% of the world population controls the wealth, the power, the opportunities. There is no need why we only have now 1.5 degrees left. And we've, you know, even if you don't believe in climate change, you can just step back and say, do we really treat each other and do we really treat the planet with respect, with love? Are we really replenishing the planet with as much as we're taking out of it? And the answer is no. The planet is really, really, really unwell. And if we as a 21st century generation do not act and take responsibility, there is not going to be a planet for the next generation. So this is the global purpose. And so when you're defining your purpose, when you're defining your vision, your mission, your values, your goals, really look at these 17 Sustainable Development Goals. There are 169 targets behind that, and start aligning your business, your sector, to these goals. Why? Well, sustainability is actually not low risk, so high risk, low reward. It's actually the complete opposite. Here is the economic argument of sustainability and aligning your business to sustainability and putting sustainability deep into the heart of your business DNA and business model. Companies that are aligned to sustainability and purpose are outperforming the stock market by over 11%. The millennials and Gen Z in particular, who are coming into their economic power, only want to choose brands and leaders that can prove their impact on society and the planet. Of that 90%, 70% of them are willing to pay higher and more for a product and service that's mission aligned, that's purpose driven. And it's just good for business. By de-risking your supply chain, adding more governance to it, de-risking it, making it more efficient, you're going to do 14 times more revenue, more profitability. And here's the big number. To deliver the SDGs this decade, every year we have to invest about 2.5 trillion of extra capital per year. But here's the price tag. If we invest this 2.5 trillion of extra capital, all of us, government, business, civil society, we will unlock something like 12 trillion global growth per annum, never seen of any generation in human history. And here are some of the big ticket markets. So just purely at a macro level, if we pull 3 billion people out of poverty, they are the new consumer market. They're going to need more housing, furniture, mobile, Wi-Fi, etc. Right? These are the huge markets, cities, energy and materials, infrastructure, healthcare, education. These are trillion-dollar new economies that are coming through sustainability. So there's a good reason why you need to align your business, your vision, your mission, your purpose, your values, your targets to the global purpose. And here's the economic reason for doing so. So remember I said our values is transparency, trust, partnership, holistic outcomes. This is actually an algorithm. For you as an organization, the more you can be transparent, the more that you're willing to stand by your claims, even if you haven't got it all together. And by the way, no one has got everything all together, right? We're a sustainability company. We are still on our journey. It is a journey. But the more transparent you can be as an organization, the more you can say, hey, we haven't got our act together yet, but we are on this journey to be more sustainable, to have more impact on society, on the economy and the environment. And the more you're willing to say, and here's the evidence of that trajectory we're on. When you can do that as an organization and you can start to articulate your vision, your mission, your values, your purpose in a really authentic way, and that is true authentic leadership, that will unlock trust. Trust is the most important ingredient and most lucrative ingredient in any organization. Trust is what unlocks partnership. When you are transparent, the trust that's built with your stakeholders, your board, your investors, your clients, your employees, that starts to build partnership. They want to come around you, give you access to more resources, give you better work, give you more success in market share, give you more access to capital, better valuations. It's win, win, win. That's where the partnership comes in. Partnership then unlocks holistic outcomes. When I talk about holistic outcomes, I mean social, economic, and environmental. Everything working as a trinity, everything working not just for pure profit, not worrying about society, society not worrying about profit, profit not worrying about environment, but no, all three working together. People, profit, planet. Now, this is a really important step, step 3. Once you write this down and you have your vision, your mission, your purpose, your values, your goals, what you want to do is you want to ask your stakeholders, how congruent are they to these statements, particularly your employees, particularly your board, particularly your investors, and say, this is who we are. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to give to the world and contribute to that global purpose. And how congruent are you to this? And if your team, your stakeholders are not congruent to that, it's going to be very, very hard for you to progress as an organization. You're not going to be able to derive the value. Everything's always going to be a little bit wishy-washy. You need your whole team, your stakeholders to believe in this one vision, in this one mission, in this one purpose. And that's when you hit the bullseye. That's when you're starting to increase, reducing risk, increasing value, and capitalize on that $12 trillion economic opportunity. I want to talk to you about steps 4 to 10 now. So this is going to fast track you. We have a model called the Tree of Life. What that means is that for every organization, when you're starting off, and you're going to start now defining your purpose, your vision, your mission, your values, and you're going to start putting sustainability into the DNA of your business. Firstly, when you plant any seed, and you want that seed to grow and flourish, you have to actually take care of the soil first. You've got to look in your soil of your organization, any weeds, any boulders, anything that's going to stop and stifle this new seed, this DNA seed that you're going to put, this beautiful thing that's going to grow in your organization. You need to take care of that soil. You need to pull out anything that's not, and that's why I said, check in how incongruent is your team, is your stakeholders to what you're saying. Because if you're not in congruence, this seed can't grow, it can't flourish. Everything in creation, everything in an organization, everything in a nation has a social, economic, and environmental component. That is the trinity of sustainable development. So once you clear that soil, you can then plant your seed. That seed is then going to start to take root. This is the regeneration phase, right? There comes the roots. Then you get the stem in the growth phase, which is, we call this the 7 M's. So map, monitor. Now we're up to the measure and manage, which is the stem and the branches. Then you have the branches and the leaves, which is manage and market. And that's where we're flourishing. Now, for any seed, for anything to grow, you need this, what we call the minister, piece where it's water. You need to feed the seed. You need to feed it everything that you're trying to do, your vision, your mission, your purpose, your goals, your targets. You have to feed it with education, inspiration, motivation, right? Adoption, people to all be on that same journey, that to create that beautiful garden that you're trying to create in your organization. Once you have that, and that flourishing happens, and that's the fruit, right? The fruit of your labor is your products and your services that you're giving to the world. That then starts to create what we call this tree of life. And then you can move, then you can scale, then you can sustain. So we talk about, we still firstly need to, this is a journey of transformation. We have to regenerate first, then we can grow, then we flourish, then we sustain. And that sustaining is what you then scale. You can scale that to your departments, scale it to your regions, scale it to your subsidiaries, scale it to your sites, scale it to your suppliers. Can you see it becomes a movement? Now, suddenly you are a regenerative organization that's actually adding not just profitability and value for yourselves as an organization, but to the world around you. So I'm just going to very quickly take you through how you can do this for your organization and yourselves. So the map stage, what we do is you don't have to do everything well, right? As an organization, look at what we call materiality. What is material to your sector? So if you're a chemicals company, or if you're a renewable energy company, or if you're a tech company, or if you're a education company, what is it where you will have the greatest opportunity for risk of doing harm to the planet? And where is the greatest opportunity for you to do good? Because when you focus on that, right, that's where you're going to add the most value, and that's where you're going to de-risk your organization. So we talk about a materiality assessment. Then we talk about, from your vision, from your values, from your purpose, from your targets, what are those metrics that are going to help you achieve contribution to those targets? Then we talk about stage 2 and 3, which is called monitor and measure. So what I suggest is you create like 30 metrics and start collecting data on those metrics. Ask yourself those questions. So I suggest that you pick 10 social metrics, 10 economic metrics, and 10 environmental metrics. There are standards in the world, Global Reporting Initiative, CDP, TCFD, SASB, etc. There are frameworks out there, and I don't recommend you create your own metrics. Align your measurement to globally recognized metrics. And again, Worldwide Generation, this is what we've been doing for the last 5 years. We can help you. But really trying to understand those metrics and how you're going to measure. Then we have to create what we call a theory of change. Set a baseline, set some targets, and then how are you doing towards that in terms of actual performance? A theory of change is actually to measure your inputs, outputs, outcomes, and impact. I'm going to show you the difference of how to do that and how to do that in an organization in the next slide. Then stage 4, manage. So once this data comes back, that creates your baseline, and you need to now start to analyze this data. You need to say, okay, what initiatives can we do to improve those 10 social metrics, those 10 economic metrics, and those 10 environmental metrics? What can we do as an organization to improve? The more you're using this data to inform your strategic decision-making, your investment decision-making, the more impactful this is going to be. If you're not doing it and you're just doing surveys for survey's sake, or doing disclosures for disclosure's sake, it is meaningless. You are not going to get the benefit of that tree of life model flourishing and doing it for genuinely where you're actually increasing value and transformation. Then stage 5 is market. So a lot of companies do a sustainability report or try and do a sustainability report. And in all honesty, back to my transparency unlocks trust, I think the general consensus is people just making statements in a sustainability report, that world is over. making, just claims or writing 200-page beautiful reports with pictures, and that world is moving away. What you need to do is to say, no, here's my vision, here's my purpose, here's my values, here's my metrics, here's how we've measured it, here is the evidence of the steps that we've taken. From there, you can produce a report. But really evidence-based marketing is how you're going to unlock that trust and unlock that partnership for the most holistic outcomes. And then stage 6 is actually then to, as I mentioned, start scaling. Those 30 metrics can start to increase. You can start to increase it across departments, regions, subsidiaries, sites, suppliers, increase that those trees start to move. And you can start to do that across every product. You can do that across every service. You can do that across as granular as you want, right? You can even start asking your consumers and clients, what do they think about what you're doing and contributing to the world? And so this minister piece, as I mentioned, is sort of a piece that goes alongside from stage 1 to stage 7. It's really about this education, inspiring piece. So a lot of companies have a sustainability team or a reporting or an ESG team that sits somewhere else. And really what I want to sort of say is it needs to sit right in the core of the operations team, finance, operations, legal, HR. It needs to have board representation. Don't separate your sustainability teams. Have sustainability in every single department. Have sustainability in every single product. And this minister is about how do you water that food? How do you water and nourish this new movement that you have in your organization? And really, once you have this at work, you will see joy. You will see a culture transformed. You will see your employees engaged. You will see your investors engaged. And honestly, if they're not, it's time to get new ones that are incongruent with your vision, your purpose, your values. So the world today measures what we call inputs. Many companies are measuring how much they're investing, human capital, have they got policies, what are their products and services, do they have external sort of CSR initiatives? Unfortunately, and some companies a little bit further down are measuring output, the how, the what, the when, the how. So if you're doing surveys at the moment, that is capturing your output. But really what I mentioned before is actually we need you to help measure outcomes. The Sustainable Development Goals, 169 targets, help you measure contribution to those outcomes. And then impact. So if you're by virtue, and this is also on our platform, by virtue of putting your data on our platform, we can actually help you measure how much contribution you're making to the outcomes of the Sustainable Development Goals and to the overall impact of the 17 goals. So ESG, environmental social governance, is actually inputs and outputs. And what I am advocating for is something called C, social, economic, and environmental integrated, financial and non-financial integrated reporting. Finally, you can have the organizational goals, you can create your values, you can create your metrics, you can create your targets, you can measure your inputs, your outputs, your outcomes, your impact. You can have your regenerative transformation model, your tree of life. But really, what I want to say is that personal transformation can and does have global effects. As we go, so goes the world, for the world is us. The revolution that will save the world is ultimately a personal one. So for all the leaders that are listening today, even if you're not a leader or a typical sort of C-suite leader, but you're there and you're listening to this message, your personal transformation in an organization, in a community, in a family, in a nation is going to have a global effect. So my final piece is that if we heal ourselves, we heal the planet. And so by that seed of planting that seed, it has to be at an individual level. So for the CEOs now listening, for the board members listening, really start to work on personal transformation in your organization. That personal transformation of your employees will have a ripple effect on your organization, on your bottom, what we call triple bottom line: people, profit, and planet. So I'll leave you there. That's the final slide. And I hope you enjoy those 10 steps, to transformation, starting with personal transformation and going all the way up to your organization and your community, your nation, and the globe. And so that's my final slide, just to say that if you want to join the worldwide generation movement, even if those 10 steps feel daunting to you, my team and I, the platform which we created, actually automates that process pretty much for you. We digitize it, we automate it with using breakthrough technology, and we walk this journey with you to peak performance. So thank you, and thanks for listening. Over to you, Glenn.
Thank you, Manjula. Wow, tremendous, outstanding. Thank you for sharing all of your insights and your expertise on such an important and critical topic. You know, it's one certainly that I've been following now for the last number of years. I spent about 18 years at the New York Stock Exchange.
Oh, wow.
And I got involved with it, oh wow, through integrated reporting a long time ago, when they started having all the exchanges from around the world were starting to sign compacts and things like that. And so we used to always get calls or inquiries about, shouldn't you have a listing standard that supports this? And it's, you know, listing standards are always kind of tricky in trying to, you know, mandate something. But certainly what you've seen the last, at least 10, if not 15 years now, the engagement amongst companies, firms, stakeholders on this topic is really tremendous. As you said, it really needs to be embedded throughout the organization, right? It's not just and really it's top down, bottom up, and they kind of maybe meet in the middle, because you know a lot of people now, certainly younger generations, as they look for careers, they're looking to join companies that kind of treat the issues the same way they do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and then you've got board members that need to be sensitive to that and trying to push from a cultural standpoint, letting it flow and cascade throughout the organization. And I think those are certainly critical steps. You know, last week in New York, I had dinner with a dear friend of mine. I'd love to introduce you to him. His name is Reverend Ollie Williams, and he is he's a board member of the UN Global Compact.
Oh, wow.
So his your sustainable development goals, he's helped write them. So
yes,
perhaps that would be a valuable introduction.
Would love to.
You can
do the UN Global Compact on our platform and post it to them. And yeah, so would love to meet him.
Yeah, sounds like a really tremendous connection. You know, some of the stats you had up, I think you know, people continue to talk to that stock performance improves, revenue growth improves through the concept of conscious capitalism. So I think continuing, as you look at measures, there's lots of support for that as you go through. And I think if people look to that, perhaps then they may come to let's call it a quicker conclusion.
Yeah.
Or maybe less resistance sometimes. What I remember from that very first integrated reporting session that I went to, someone asked a question, by the way, in the audience, not to pick on lawyers, but anybody from the general counsel's office? No hands went up. No hands went up. Because a lot of times it often starts with transparency and disclosure and what you say. And the SASB's done some wonderful work over time. And I know that organization is evolving a little bit as well. I was friends with Gene Rogers, who was the founder.
Oh, I know Gene.
Yeah, Gene's done some wonderful work there all those years ago. And their frameworks, as you said, you don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel.
No.
A lot of GRI, as you mentioned, a lot of good frameworks already exist. What I thought was what I liked really your transparency, trust, partnership, and holistic outcomes. Great foundation, great springboard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, if you
It
look
is an
for,
algorithm. It really
sure,
works. It
yeah,
really works. It's a formula, you know? And if you did nothing else and you just stuck to those four values, or the first value, which is transparency. Um, and as I mentioned, a lot of companies, like when we talk to them, they're like, oh, can you just come back when we've got like, we've got our, you know, and our act together. And I always describe coming onto this platform like coming into a sustainability gym. You know, you coming in and you're going to get baselined, and so we can help you understand, where are you vulnerable, where are your risks, where are you doing actually really well. And so it's sort of analogy of that is, oh, can I just lose some weight before I jump on the scales, you know? And it's like, no, that's why you're here. Actually start, be transparent, be honest, like, and until you know where you are, right? That is the human condition. Until you know where you are, and you can't do anything about it.
it's
And
it's it's like
live
the old
your own
billboard, right?
truth. Right.
It's the old billboard, before and after, right? You have to
Yes.
kind of kind of get
You
up there
do.
and say, okay, hey, listen, this is what I am now, and
Yes,
here's what I aspire to become, right?
exactly.
As you
Exactly.
as you
Exactly. And you
go
don't have
forward.
to go again, you know, back to the analogy, you don't have to go on heavy weights day one. It's actually about, okay, baby steps, right? Here's where we are today. Here's where we want to get to in terms of peak performance, and what's those programs we're going to take to get there. And so that's really how people need to look at sustainability. It's really about well-being, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, your various steps and the number and all of those M's. I think what's important, what you have is, you have to, you know, you have to clear the ground first, right? That regeneration phase
Soil. Yeah.
and you can't underestimate how important that is, right?
Yep.
And you know,
And
and
a lot
then
of people just try and do it the other way. They try and market first, and then they kind of try and they realize, why isn't this flourishing? Why am I getting the results? Why am I getting resistance? It's because the soil was never cleared properly
yeah,
first.
you know, and there's, you know, if you're a spiritual person, you go back to scripture about mustard
Right.
seeds and where does it get
Yeah.
put, and
Right.
what grows from there. Or if you're a Doctor Who fan on the
Yes.
BBC and you're all about regeneration, like my
Right.
wife is, you know, so you wind up seeing it
Right.
in different types of
Right.
lights. How about from you know, from an investment standpoint? Have you seen the investment funds, some of the bigger investment banks around the world? Kind of, how do you see them wrestling with this issue, and being, are you getting a lot of support from them? Are you seeing people writing about it?
Oh, honestly, I mean, this whole platform came from me going and understanding, if we have to unlock 2.5 trillion of extra capital per year, the proper capital markets have to play a role, right? The banks have to play a role, the investors have to play a huge role. And so I went to them and I said, you know, what's stopping you? Look at all this data, right? If you invest sustainably, you're going to pick the next billion-trillion-dollar companies. Like, what is stopping you? And they said, right now, sustainability data is coming 12 to 24 months after financial data. Most of the data is data scraped from the public domain, mainly only for public companies, but actually SMEs are most of the global economy. So they have no data set for these SMEs. And, you know, right now also everyone's monitoring, measuring performance completely differently. So the bankers, the investors have to buy lots of data sets, but put it through their own ESG methodology just to get comparability at a portfolio level. And they were like, you know, Manjula, if you're really going to help us, right now we get an ESG rating. If a company's good, bad, not so good, the same company can get an A+ from somewhere and a D- from somewhere else, right? No rhyme or reason. What we really want to know is, if we invest in this company, project, solution, are we going to move the dial from here to here, which is really impact data. So they're like, if you can give us trusted, comparable, real-time impact data, we can do our jobs as financiers. And I was like, wow, that was the whole crux of this. And then the companies are like, yes, we want to give you this data, but we're in a world of pain, having to fill out all these different surveys, hundreds of questions per survey. You know, every time we get a new investor, a new loan, a new survey emerges. So that was really why I invented this platform. And, you know, here we are in Singapore, and, you know, this nation is really going for it, where companies have a very easy way to disclose, really reducing their time, cost, risk, effort, and then enable them to share that with their assurers, rating agencies, stock exchange, and their investors all on one platform. So for the capital to move, for the resource and the scale to move, data, trusted, comparable, real-time data. And you don't get that until you standardize the disclosure. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I've heard that from a number of folks where every day there's another survey in their inbox. People are desperately trying to get their hands on some sort of baseline. There's a lot out there, but I think we're learning and improving every day. And we actually had something on the chat here, and it's important too. Is data is great, but and visualizing it for people. What does it really mean?
Oh, totally.
Right? What is
totally.
Infographics are always a great way to do that. And how do you get that out there for your stakeholders and regulators and other folks as well?
Yes.
I think if more people took a holistic approach to it, I think people's goals are generally the same, and the 3 Ps are always a good place to start.
Yeah.
Sometimes though, sometimes from a regulation standpoint, sometimes we get heavy-handed with mandates, and you must say this, and then people, and then you lose the evangelizing around it, because then it becomes a disclosure exercise. Well, we have to they're requiring us to do this, so we have to calculate it. And then you're more focused on trying to calculate it and not get sued by how you put it out, as opposed to what the overall goals are to begin with.
Right, exactly.
So somewhere we have to get that balance, I think.
That's right. And I like to keep things simple. It's literally like, going back to that well-being analogy, when you go to your doctor, they do a blood test, and that blood test gives you a baseline, right? It says, where are you? And that's really what this should be. And just set those targets: baseline, target, actual. Where are you? And then you can say, okay, well, if we want to improve our gender equality, okay, let's look at where are we today? Do we have 50-50 gender parity? Do we have 50-50 gender parity and pay? Do we have enough diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And then what are the steps? If we don't, okay, what are the steps that we can do to improve that? You really need to just go back to very basic. It's not complicated. And why I sort of said, don't separate the financial from the non-financial, because it will just become something you do on the side. But actually, if you bring it together, as you said, integrated reporting, and get that C lens, social, economic, and environmental lens on your whole business, that's really where you're going to spot where the vulnerabilities, the risks, and actually where you're doing really well. So, start small. I said 10 socials and 10 economic, 10 environmental metrics. Maybe even make a 3-3-3. Start small, set that baseline, set the target, and then measure progress against that. What gets measured gets managed. Right. What gets managed then can get marketed properly, right? And that's when you see the growth. So
no, just some tremendous insights. I could talk to you all day about this. This is really a fascinating topic, and you're doing some amazing work in the space. And thanks for what you're doing, because it's an important topic. I'm sure I've got your contact information. I'll work on that introduction. I think that would be a great conversation to have, and perhaps we can continue that in the future.
Yeah. Well, and we should catch up as well.
Absolutely. But in the meantime, fabulous presentation, Manjula Lee. Thank you for joining us today on Leading Entrepreneurs of the World. You're doing some great work. We got a whole bunch of comments and stuff. People are impressed, as am I. And thank you for your contributions to everything you're doing with your company and all the good that you're doing. So listen, have a great rest of your evening. Thanks for participating, and look forward to seeing you in the future.
Okay, awesome. Take care.
Take good care. Thank you. Bye.